Everybody ready to go?
Right. I hereby call the City Council meeting for October 24th to order. If I could get Councilmember Mercado to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hand over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Linda, roll call.
Okay, Councilmember King.
Here.
Councilmember Mercado.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andrusik.
Here.
And Mayor Sierra.
Here. Thank you very much. Okay. Any reordering of the agenda? Nope. Okay. Moving on to public comments. This is our audience's opportunity to speak on any matter. You got 3 minutes of just your own time, whether you've got a complaint or a compliment, whether it's about an agenda item or not. I have 2 speaker slips so far. The first one is Michael Baker. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Michael Baker, CEO for United Boys and Girls Clubs, Santa Barbara County, and our second newest, it's no longer our newest location, is in Buellton, and we are very excited about that. But we did open a new location in Solvang, which has been going very well. But I do want to point out to each and every one of you that we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this gentleman sitting right here, our wonderful superintendent of schools, Dr. Haggard, opened the doors for us to come onto the campus, and it's been a tremendous partnership. We have 240 kids enrolled in the program. It's just been, the more room we have, the more we can serve. So we're really excited about what's happening at the Boys and Girls Club. Tomorrow we're honored to be the recipient of the Buellton Rotary's golf tournament. The proceeds from that are going to benefit the Boys and Girls Club, so we're very excited about that. As a proud Rotarian as well, I'm happy for that. But it's really exciting for me personally to be able to come to the Buellton City Council meetings because I'm actually a resident of Buellton. So one of the few times that I get to actually talk in a community where I have a Boys and Girls Club that actually is in my hometown. So I'm really excited about that. And again, encourage each and every one of you, if you haven't done so already, please stop down to Oak Valley Elementary School. Make sure you check in at the office. Yes, make sure you do that. But stop down and see that program in action. It's a tremendous after-school program that's serving a lot of kids. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for what you do for our youth. Our second speaker, Dr. Haggard.
Good evening, council members. I'm Mayor Sierra, and I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. And I always appreciate Mr. Baker and his comments. It is a great partnership and really supports some students that really need that support. So we're grateful. And I just have a few things that I'd like to address that you may be aware of, you may not be aware of. But first I'd like to thank our new city manager, Mr. Wolf, and Mayor Hawley for their efforts to initiate a new program in our schools, the City in the Schools program. And I think that I was speaking with Mr. Baker before the start of the meeting about some of the important things in education that I think we need to emphasize. And we all have reminiscence of civic education, whether it was in 8th grade or in our senior year. But one of the areas that gets rather short shrift is the issue of local governance and the importance of local government. And so I'm really appreciative that we've got a program that's going to really build up our students and give them some inside knowledge of how government works for them. And so I really appreciate your collaboration on that. It's really important. Second thing is I want to just emphasize, I know how much conversation there is around the legalization of cannabis and the issues surrounding that. I just want to emphasize and remind and thank you for your vigilance with regard to drugs in our community and cannabis. I know this is a real hard time, lots of tough decisions before all governing bodies, but I appreciate your taking great care with regard to that issue. And we all want to make sure that kids have appropriate and safe access to their education. Last thing, and it's kind of a complicated issue, and I'd be happy to come back and speak with the City Council at some point in the future if it would be helpful to you, is the collaboration that we currently have in place with Vista Del Mar School District. We are in the midst of a shared services agreement. The Buellton Union School District is serving the junior high students from Vista Del Mar at Honda Middle School. And we're also providing administrative support to that little district as they have gone through some pretty dramatic declining enrollment and declining revenue. And there's an upcoming joint board meeting on November 6th between the two boards, the board for the Buellton Union School District and the board for the Vista Del Mar Union School District, at which they will have a budget workshop looking at the potential impact of a reorganization. And these are the kinds of decisions that communities really need to be a part of and need to be aware of. And so I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that meeting coming up. And it'll be at the Honolulu Middle School Library on November 6th at 6 o'clock in the evening. And I really encourage your input on that. A very important issue for the community and for the children of the community, and proud to be a part of that. So thank you for your attention and for the time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming. Honda School. Okay, I have no other speaker slips for public comment. I'm getting ready to close it. If anybody else wants to get up and give us your 3 minutes. Okay, then I'm closing public comment. Moving on to the consent calendar. We have 4 items tonight. Minutes of October 10, 2019 regular city council meeting. List of claims to be approved and ratified for payment to date for fiscal year 2019-20. The monthly treasurer's report, September 30th, 2019, and the filing of an amended 2019-20 claim with Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, SBCAG, for State Transit Assistance, STA Fund, for 2018-19 apportionments. Questions, gentlemen?
Move for approval. I'll second.
All righty, Linda?
Okay, Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Mercado.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Andrusik.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye, thank you. Presentations. No presentations tonight? Okay. Public hearings, agenda item number 5. Resolution number 19-20, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, approving a 1-year time extension, 19TE-02, request for conditional use permit, 12-CUP-01, and tentative tract map, TTM 31056, for the Meritage Senior Living Project located on Hanada Park Road, assessor parcel numbers 099-400-064 and 099-400-065 and 099-400-069 off-site portion. Ms. Kiefer.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. An application has been filed by Norm Williams, the property owner, and Mark Edwards, the agent, for a second 1-year time extension for the previously approved Meritage Senior Living Project. This project was originally approved by the City Council on October 24th, 2013, and is located on Hanada Park Road, including a small portion located outside of city limits within the county. Attachment 3 included in your staff report includes the approved project plans, and the applicant is requesting a time extension for the same project as originally approved, so no changes to my knowledge to the originally approved project. And the project approvals, which included conditional use permit and a tentative tract map, were originally set to expire on October 24th, 2018. However, in compliance with the Buellton Municipal Code, the applicant applied for the first time extension September 19th, 2018 in advance of the date of expiration. And upon recommendation of the Planning Commission on December 20th, 2018, the first time extension request was approved by the Council in January of 2019 and is valid through today, 10/24/2019. So on September 19th of this year, the Planning Commission adopted Resolution 1908, recommending the City Council approval of the second 1-year time extension for this project. And if the second time extension is approved, the project approvals would be valid through October 24th, 2020. Based on the Buellton Municipal Code standards and state law related to the State MAP Act, both the conditional use permit and the tentative tract map have lifespans of 5 years. However, if substantial construction is not completed prior to the expiration dates of the land use approvals, the applicant can apply for up to 2 1-year time extensions for the CUP, the conditional use permit, and up to 3 1-year time extensions for the tentative tract map. So this is the second request for both, second request for a 1-year time extension for both. So while the applicant could seek an additional extension for the project's tract map, this would be the final extension allowed for the conditional use permit. With that, tonight the recommendation is that the City Council consider the adoption of Resolution 1920 as written in the staff report, approving the one-year time extension for the CUP and the tentative tract map for the Meritage Senior Living Project. Mark Edwards, the agent for the project, is here in the audience tonight and available to answer any questions if needed. Otherwise, that concludes my staff report, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any questions for Andrea or for Mr. Edwards?
No question.
Okay, no questions? I don't have any speaker slips. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this agenda item? No? Bring it back to council for discussion then.
Madam Mayor, I move for approval of Resolution 1920.
Second. Second.
Alrighty. Linda?
Okay, Vice Mayor Andrusik.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Mercado.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Agenda item number 6, ordinance number 19-03, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, considering revisions to Title 19 zoning of the Buellton Municipal Code 19-ZOA-01 relating to accessory dwelling units, amending sections 19.02.110, 19.04.142, 19.12.020, 19.16.010, 19.16.014, 19.16.020, deleting title and text of section 19.06.180 and replacing with new title accessory dwelling units and text. This is an introduction and first reading. Ms. Tucker.
Right. Thank you, Mayor Sierra and council members. This ordinance is, in essence, to update the current secondary dwelling unit standards and regulations that the city currently has, which are mainly set forth in section 19.06.180 of the municipal code. But because there are other sections of the code that are also affected by the changes that we have to make, we're making small little changes to the other sections that you had read off. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this matter on September 5th and adopted a resolution recommending to City Council the approval of the updates. So before I go through the actual staff report, I would like to give a little bit of background. Just on the, there we go. So secondary dwelling units, as we've been referring to them in the past, also known as in-law units, granny flats, are in the past have been typically on single-family residential property, and they are looked at as a viable option to increase housing inventory and affordability. It provides the opportunity to maximize housing choices within existing neighborhoods and provides alternate housing types to meet the varying needs of elderly, low-income, and other socioeconomic groups. The state has passed numerous legislation since 2003 requiring localities to allow secondary dwellings, and they continue to pass them with increasing frequency. So the ordinance update that we have before you tonight reflect changes to state law that became effective in 2017 and 2018. It's as part of these revisions that secondary dwellings have become to be known formally as accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, and a new definition was added that encapsulates what an ADU is. And this legislation requires local agencies to incorporate state-mandated standards into local ordinances in order to streamline the approval process and encourage the development of ADUs. The state-mandated the state-mandated requirements, I'll just present some of the highlights really quickly. Parking requirements have been reduced to 1 space per bedroom or per ADU unit. For ADUs with an existing space, such as a garage conversion, no additional spaces may be required. And for a parking area or a structure, such as a garage conversion to an ADU, replacement parking spaces can be located in any configuration, including tandem parking on the property. As far as the zoning districts where ADUs must be allowed, in the past, it was only in single-family residential zoning districts. It is now to be permitted in all zones zoned for single-family or multifamily, and which include a proposed or existing single-family unit. The state mandate requires that these be ministerial permits, no discretionary review or hearing, and that this review and approval occur within 120 days. Any fees that are charged must be proportionate to the burden of the ADU, and they may not exceed the reasonable cost of providing the service. The ADU shall not be considered a new residential use. The state law gives the cities the right to adopt certain local standards. Otherwise, state ADU standards apply. Once Buellton adopts its local ADU ordinance, we submit that to the State Department of Housing and Community Development within 60 days following the adoption for comment. And on occasion, they send back comments and requirements for further updates, but we're pretty solid in moving forward with the ordinance that we have before you tonight. So I'll just quickly go through the changes to the ordinances, and so these are the sections that are being changed. The table that you see here previously only allowed ADUs in the RS column, so we have now added allowed for the residential multifamily and planned residential development zones as well for ADUs to be we're proposing to change the table for number of parking spaces required, and we're adding the accessory dwelling unit, ADU, as a line, which there was none before, and specifying that one parking space per ADU be required in any form, covered, uncovered, tandem on the driveway, and that may be also permitted in setback areas. And as I mentioned previously, when a garage or parking area for the primary residence is used for an ADU, replacement parking is required, but on a 1-to-1 ratio that it may be provided anywhere on the property. The section 19.06.180 accessory dwelling units is the new title that this code section would now be known as, and this was previously titled secondary dwellings. We've not only are proposing to change the title, but we are restating the text so it complies with the state law. And we've added the new definition for the accessory dwelling unit, or the ADU. And it just goes into detail in describing what an ADU is, and it also adds to this definition that efficiency units are permitted as well as a manufactured home, so that those can be used as ADUs. So the lot standards, the minimum lot size remains at 6,500 square feet for attached ADUs, and that's the 6,500 square feet is what's currently the lot size requirement in the code section for second units. We are proposing that a new minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet be enacted for detached ADUs. So detached ADUs would be ones that are not attached directly to the house, so they would, by that definition, require a little bit more space on the property. So the ADU may not cause overall development of the lot to exceed the maximum lot coverage and open space standards for the applicable zone. and only one ADU would be allowed on any one legal lot. As far as the ADU size and height requirements, the minimum size would be 400 square feet, except for efficiency units, which have a minimum size of 150 square feet. This is per state law. And for a manufactured home, it's a minimum size of 320 square feet. Maximum 2 bedrooms. Maximum height shall not exceed the primary unit, and detached ADUs shall be 1 story. The increase in floor area shall not exceed 50% of the primary unit's habitable space. Currently, the code allows a maximum of 40% increase, so the 50% is in compliance with the state law. And the maximum increase of total square footage for an ADU would be 1,200 square feet, and that is currently allowed per our municipal code. Design of the ADUs shall be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and the community design guidelines. No excessive noise, traffic, parking, neighborhood disturbances, no adverse effects on public services. The ADU may not be sold or financed separately from the principal structure, but may be rented or leased, provided there are no short-term rentals. And the applicant for the ADU must be the owner occupant of the existing residential unit. The proposed amendments are consistent with the general plan, with the housing element goals, and other aspects of the zoning code of Buellton. Amendments for ADU purposes to the zoning code are exempt from CEQA review, and this is specifically stated in the CEQA guidelines that adoption of local ADU ordinances are not subject to CEQA. And as I mentioned before, the state is making a lot of changes to laws related to housing. And in 2019, there have been additional changes that have been signed into law. And some of these changes became law after the Planning Commission had considered the draft ordinance. So what staff and city attorney are proposing is that we review and determine what changes are required, what further changes are required to Buellton's ADU ordinance, as well as any additional housing-related changes to the municipal code, and bring that back at a future time to the city council for consideration. But we felt that it's important to get this particular ordinance that has gone through the Planning Commission review process, the public hearing process. We felt that it is important to get that on the books right now, so we at least establish that roadmap for us to go on. So with that, we have before you the recommendation from the Planning Commission and from staff for adoption of the ordinance number 1903 that you have before you tonight.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
happy to answer any questions.
Council members, any questions?
Is it not 7,500 square feet that you can have a granny quarters on? I thought that at one time you had to have a 10,000 square foot lot, and then they changed it to 7,500 square feet.
Well, this current one is 6,500 square feet.
Is 65?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
Because if someone had planned on doing this and then we're changing it to 8,000 now, is that what the, is
so
that something?
it would be a minimum lot size of 6,500 for attached.
Okay, but for a separate one? It
Yeah,
has to be.
attached or anything within an existing primary residence. But for detached, which is in essence a separate structure, we are recommending that there would be a larger minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet.
Yeah, but
And
is it-
Councilmember, that lot size is one area that we believe the state is taking discretion away from us, and that when we do bring the follow-up in either your December meeting or your first meeting in January, we might have to see some changes to that as well. As Ms. Tucker said, a number of housing laws were passed this fall, including 5 dealing with ADUs. We're currently synthesizing those 5, but we wanted to get this ordinance on the books as the baseline and then make the changes to comply with what the state's now telling us we have to do. And I do believe that we'll see some changes in the lot size, sir.
Is the 8,000 lot size fluid, or that's the new?
For right now, it will be...
Recommendation, or
Yeah,
is
for
it-
right now, the recommendation is 8,000 if it's going to be a separate structure. But the council, in your wisdom, you can tell us that you want to redline this and have it read something different.
Alrighty. Any other questions before I open it to the public? I don't have any speaker slips, but if anybody out there wants to speak on our ADU subject? No? Okay, council members, comments, direction?
I think Irma's sending us down the right road, especially with being able to bring back some of the new changes. So getting it on the books, I think we're moving forward in the right direction.
Is that a motion?
I would add another question, because I'm afraid if somebody had a lot that was between 75 and 8,000, and had plans for a detached house, now that we would be taking that opportunity away from them, I was wondering if there's any liability there. If somebody's made plans, they've been told it's 7,500 square feet, and now they've been told it's 8,000. And that's my problem with it.
Sounds like a question for our attorney.
I don't know what's been submitted to the planning department, but I can tell you that if somebody were in the process and they found out that this was beginning tonight, you have first reading tonight, second reading in 2 weeks, and this will go into effect 30 days after that. So after seeing that this is starting right now, they have 45 days to get an application in, and we'll treat that application as timely, and they'll be able to move forward. We wouldn't deny somebody if the application was in before this was deemed effective.
So they would know.
That's fair.
My lot is 7,700 square feet. I'm not being selfish, but I've always had the.
Someday.
It's a value to my property if you can do it. And so by changing the law, you'd actually reduce the value of my property. I don't know if I wanted to get one, I could get the application in within 30 days. Or is that the rule? No.
You'd have about 45, or else instead of the structure being completely separate from the main house, it would have to be attached with at least one wall attached to a wall in the main house. That would be the...
Would it be a problem to change it to keep it at 7,500? I'm just wondering.
That's up to the 5 of you.
If I could just comment on that. It is currently, the minimum lot size is 6,500
Oh, okay.
in the second dwelling code section. So
I thought it was 7,500. At
So
one
we-
time, it went from
at one
10,000
time,
to 7,500.
it could very well have been, we're recommending 6,500 for attached, and then for a detached unit, we're recommending 8,000 minimum. But again, that's council's discretion.
Okay.
Art, did you want to make that motion?
Yeah.
Want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance number 19-3 as stated.
Could I ask a question before we get a second?
And actually, the motion would be to introduce the ordinance,
First reading.
waive further reading, introduce the ordinance by title only, which has been read, and waive further reading, and then we'll bring it back for a second hearing. Yes, ma'am.
Like he said.
If we had somebody who was close to the 8,000 and they came in with, say, a smaller ADU, would that be something that could be taken to the planning commission, or?
No, ADUs actually have to be approved ministerially by law. They can't be subject to any discretionary.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you.
So you couldn't put a variance on it if somebody did not comply with the state or city law?
I suppose we could take it as a variance to allow it in a situation where it otherwise would be barred, that we could do that as a variance. That's a good point, sir. Yes, I apologize, ma'am. Councilman's correct. In a situation where an ADU would be barred by our law, but the lot were unique for some reason and it would support a variance finding, then we could take it through as a variance.
And a question for you, well, is the neighborhood you're in, are most of the lots about the same size?
Yeah, there's a lot of are small. I'm just in the turn where I have a little bit larger lot, but I always assumed that it was 7,500, so it's changed on me. I didn't keep up with it,
Yeah.
but the 7,500 was
And
something that I
our
found.
Thumbelina area are larger
Yeah,
lot sizes.
those are like 10,000. Those
Much
are big.
larger.
Yeah,
11,
Okay,
10, 11, yeah, they're big.
okay,
on some of the bigger, on the corner lots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're good.
okay. Okay, so did you make a motion?
Yes. As stated by our city attorney.
By title only,
Yes.
with further readings.
What he said.
A second?
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Mercado.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
No,
Vice Mayor Andriesik.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Okay, moving on to council member comments / items. Anything?
I'd like to thank Linda for setting up our convention, and we had a good time, and it was very beneficial, I think, to the city, and thank you for getting our accommodations there. It was a nice, good time.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor, regarding comments, I wanted to appreciate the efforts that the community did on October the 12th. We had fire department put on a wonderful pancake breakfast Saturday, the 12th of October, and following that was the car show. I think the first one ever on a grassed area for the city. It was the 1932 Ford Classics displayed on Zaka Creek Golf Course. Very nicely done and very well attended. There were two businesses that we deal with that played major roles in making the event a delight and a success. Marburg Industries provided all of the support that they needed, and they provided it at their expense. We really appreciate that. And the instigator of the car show, Steve Licken, with Steve's Wheel and Tire, worked tirelessly. And he called everybody. I think anyone that has a phone that rings, he called them and asked them to help. The benefits have been very rewarding. He announced that he netted $17,000, to which he promptly gave $8,500 to Meals on Wheels at our Buellton Senior Center. And then, being automotive enthusiast and trying to bring on new people, he's sent $8,500 to the San Ynez High School Auto Shop. And I thought that was it was just a lot of fun. We were blessed with good weather.
beautiful.
I think all of us had a chance to see it, but and appreciated the press taking the pictures that they did. So that was, I appreciated that. The next thing on comments today, we had the economics of energy was sponsored by the Taxpayers Industry and Industry's 2019 Action Summit, the economics of energy. It was held at Route 246 in Solvang, and it was well attended. And it brought it reminded me of an item that so this is now on future agenda items. I would ask that we consider a resolution supporting balanced energy solutions, maintaining local control of energy solutions. I think if we've been pretty successful in managing the responsibilities we've been given for for our energy and the utilities that we control. And I received a template for it, and I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention on our council, and then at a future agenda item, if we could have that for consideration in the, I think there's Dave and Arts there, and some for staff.
All right.
So that concludes my, well, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
on the Ventura County Housing Conference, I attended it Tuesday down in Ventura. Very well-run organization, a lot of professionals speaking about what it takes to get housing, and the mountain that they're trying to climb with affordability, size of lots. So I brought a copy of the flyer that we had for everybody. I've given one to Steve. So I'll have them here on now. But that was a good conference, and I thought that it made sense. So I think if we can be proactive with our energy utilization, maybe we can increase the popularity of Buellton.
All righty. Thank you. Any comments, items? No?
Comment, but
Okay. I was fortunate to be able to attend the quarterly awards at Vandenberg Air Force Base today with Colonel Reeves, and it's always very impressive to see everybody in uniform and the enthusiasm that the base has. It's very nice to be a part of it. And I wanted to thank Linda and staff for helping arrange our attorney, dueling pianos and good informative meetings. We learned a lot there, and I appreciate the opportunity. All righty, moving on. Any written communications?
No, ma'am.
And committee reports.
We were, last week, we attended the League of California Cities down in Long Beach. A lot of good information, a lot of networking with different people we haven't seen in a while. We also were able to get some training in that's required by the state for elected members, so we had a good time.
We're now ethical
We're now
and no longer
ethical
harass anybody.
and- Right, correct.
Good compliment.
Cannot harass or ethics. so-
Very important. All righty. Moving on to...
I have committee
Go
report.
ahead, please.
The chamber met on Monday, and they were following up on their Sideways weekend. Buellton's part was the wine festival on Sunday with Santa Rita Hills. It was attended by over 350 people. Seemed all events went really well. 2 out of the 5 were completely sold out, and so it was well attended and made a good effort to bring it back again.
Wonderful. Thank you. No other committee reports. We move on to business item number 7, ordinance number 19-02, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, amending Municipal Code Title 19, zoning, related to certain commercial cannabis activities. This is our second reading. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As the Mayor has noted, this is the second reading for this particular ordinance, which was introduced for first reading at the City Council's last meeting. This ordinance addresses the action taken by the city, or the proposed action to be taken by the city, to remove from the list of prohibited commercial cannabis uses the cannabis testing and analysis laboratories. Staff has discussed this previously on a couple of different occasions. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but given the introduction at the last City Council meeting, the action before you this evening is the second reading of this, and that'll conclude my report.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions? Anybody from the audience with a question or comment? Nope. Bring it back to council. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we approve ordinance number 1902, second reading of ordinance of City Council of the City of Buellton, California, amending Municipal Code Title 19, zoning relating to certain commercial cannabis activities.
I'll second it.
Alrighty, Linda?
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Mercado.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Andrusik.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 8, consideration of adoption of the Santa Ynez Valley Bicycle Master Plan. Ms. Hess?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Member City Council. Over the past year, SBCAG has been working on a Santa Ynez Valley Bicycle Master Plan. They've been working through a technical advisory committee, which includes the cities of Buellton, Solvang, the Santa Barbara County, the Chumash Tribe, and several bicycle advocates groups in the area. Essentially, this creates a regional bicycle master plan covering all the different agencies. And what it does for Buellton, it updates our bicycle master plan, incorporates everything that we've had in our 2012 master plan, kind of brings it up to date, and gives us something new to look forward to and implement. The draft plan is attached, and we also have Mike Becker from SBCAG here to do a brief presentation over the process and the master plan itself. There went through a lot of public and stakeholder input, held both here in Buellton and in Solvang. So there's a lot of public involvement in the creation of this master plan. Several entities do have to adopt this. The City of Solvang already adopted it. I'm not sure if it was earlier this week or last week. And we are adopting it tonight, and the county still has to adopt it as well. And once it's adopted, it will become an active regional master plan, which benefits us because that we can go forward with trying to obtain additional grant funding for implementation of different projects that pertain to the City of Buellton. So the particular projects for Buellton is attached in the staff report, so it's pulled out for you guys, Table 3. Again, it's pretty much all the projects that we had listed in our 2012 master plan. There is an additional project that was new that came out of this public process. That includes the bicycle pump tracks at Riverview Park. And just so you're aware, our recreation department has taken the lead and started trying to look at what that would look like at Riverview Park, and working out some details, and they'll be working with us to try to implement that when we're ready.
Cool.
With that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Becker for his presentation.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Sierra and council members. I'm Mike Becker. I'm the Planning Director at Santa Barbara County Association of Governments. I'm here to provide a brief presentation on the Santa Ynez Valley Bicycle Master Plan. This was a planning project undertaken by SBCAG in partnership with the cities of Buellton and Solvang and the County of Santa Barbara, and is intended to be a plan for the valley as a single location rather than having 3 separate plans for each of the individual jurisdictions. On October 14th, the City of Solvang adopted the plan. During its November 21st meeting, the SBCAG Board of Directors will consider the plan for adoption. Today it's here for your consideration, and I do not have a date for when the county will consider it for adoption, but I've come to learn that it's a big ship does not turn very fast. The rest of this presentation should take about 10 minutes. When we got into this project, we wanted to address the bicycle mobility needs of 3 separate types of cyclists. First, we have kids. Nearly all kids learn to ride a bike at some time. It's a rite of passage. If there are not safe places for the kids to ride, they'll leave the bike behind when their driveway gets too small or the street in front of their house becomes too small of a domain. Next, we have, looking at the center photo, with commuters or casual recreational cyclists that don't fall into that third category. These are individuals that want to ride a bike for short trips or for exercise. They're looking for safety and comfort, ideally bike lanes or bike paths. And finally, the road cyclists. Road cyclists are not necessarily a primary concern of the City of Buellton. They're confident and prefer rural roads. The biggest ask we heard from this group is primarily to improve the pavement condition throughout the valley, along with a handful of minor safety improvements. For Buellton, as I said, the focus is on the kids and the commuters or the casual recreational cyclists. When we got into this, the first thing we did is we looked at the existing plans, and each of the jurisdictions that were involved does have an existing plan. So we reviewed, are there any projects that were in those plans that have not been implemented? And with those, we carried them forward. And as you'll see, actually, as Rose mentioned too, the vast majority of the projects associated with the city of Buellton have been carried forward from that 2012 plan. So after we did that, we cataloged the existing bicycle network to determine that's our starting point. We explored how connected it is or how not connected it is, and we used it as a foundation for going forward. Next, we looked at safety. We looked at a 5-year period. I believe it was 13 to 16. In that 5-year period, there were 4 collisions involving a bicycle in the city of Buellton. Though I am glad to be able to say that 0 of them involved serious injuries and 0 of them involved fatalities. 2 of them occurred on 2nd Street near the schools. 3 of them involved kids age 14 or younger. 2 of those were females. The 4th was a 25 to 29-year-old male. The one thing to note is that none of the bicycle collisions in the city of Buellton, and there's only one that's even questionable throughout the entire valley, occurred in an area where the roads have been improved for bicyclists. There's bicycle lanes or a bicycle path. They all were on roads without any accommodation for bikes. So with looking at the existing bicycle network, the existing plans, safety, then we went to the public. We went to the public and we said, here's what we know based off the work that we've done so far. Tell us what we don't know. What are the other safety issues that we should be looking at? What are the connectivity issues that we haven't noticed? And also, for these issues that you're identifying and the ones that we've identified, what are some potential solutions that we can consider to solve these issues? This isn't meant to be read, but we went back to the advisory committee. This is just an agenda from the advisory committee because I didn't have a picture of them. And we took what we had learned from the public process through this to that point and starting to match improvements to issues to try and figure out how to solve these issues that we've learned of and the public told us of. And once we thought we were done, we said, let's go back to the public. So this was another round of 2 public meetings, one each in Buellton and Solvang. And in this one, we said, here's the improvements that we came up with. Tell us if we're wrong, number 1, but also we categorized the improvements as, we call them Tier 1, which are transformational and expensive projects, and we asked the public, say, help us identify the top 3. We know that it's a challenge to even implement the top 3, but we don't want to have a list of 5 or 10 projects. Tell us what your priorities are. So we ended up with a list of 3 of the large projects, and then we asked for 5 of the medium-sized projects. And then we also had a Tier 3, which was small projects, which we felt that could just be implemented alongside road maintenance activities and didn't need to be prioritized. And we also looked at some school projects and how do you safely get kids to and from school. So we asked the public to do the prioritization. And it is important to note throughout the process, we did have about 100 people turn out to the 4 public workshops that we had, which I think is pretty good for a bicycle plan here in the San Ynez Valley. So this table, it's also in your staff report, lists the projects associated with the city of Buellton. And if you look at that second to last column, it says previously planned, and you'll note that basically all of them except for 2 say yes, and that means they came out of that 2012 plan. And the 2 that didn't, one is an aspirational project, meaning it did not meet that priority threshold by the public process, is a bicycle path or a pedestrian path alongside Hanada Park Road, which would require coordination with the county. And then the bicycle pump tracks in Riverview Park, which was prioritized high by the public. So I just wanted to get in, I know a pump track, what is a pump track? There's not a right way or a wrong way to have a pump track. It could be paved, it doesn't have to be paved, but ultimately the purpose of a pump track is to provide a safe place for kids to ride bikes while also improving their bicycle handling skills. They serve a similar purpose to a skate park, providing a place for kids to ride their skateboards. So this plan found that it would be beneficial to have a pump track in the city of Buellton as a resource for your kids to use or amenity, and also one in the city of Solvang, perhaps at Hans Christian Andersen Park. And I know both cities, it seemed that there's some momentum behind these, which is exciting for me. The other big project that involved the city of Buellton is the San Ynez River Trail. And this was originally planned in the 2015 SBCAG Regional Active Transportation Plan. So it's a trail connecting Buellton and Solvang for people who want to walk, jog, ride a bike, ride a horse. We don't know where it's going to go. We don't know if it'll ever be built. I hope it's built. This was the #1 project coming out of the process. And because there's a lot of unknowns with it, SBCAG put up some money, and we got small contributions from the two cities as well as the county. And we have a consultant on board right now that we're looking at some various opportunities and constraints associated with alignments. Essentially, you have the north side of the river, the south side of the river, or along 246, or any combination of those. So we're going to look at environmental constraints or opportunities, the land ownership issues that may be impediments, and also community support. Where would the community like to see a trail? And I will say, to digress a little bit, I believe it was in April, I came up and I stayed at Flying Flags Resort with my family. While I was there, I guessed that there was probably 300 sites. I'm just guessing there, but I did notice that every single person there, or basically everybody there, had a bicycle. And I'd guess at some point everybody went into Solvang, and I'm guessing they probably drove. But if that trail was there, I think it would be a huge amenity not only to the residents of Buellton and Solvang, but also to the visitors of both. I can almost guarantee that Flying Flags, if there was a trail that connected Flying Flags to Solvang, it would be on their website as the front and center. It would be a big resource to the community and to the community's visitors. So we have that project going on. It's early, and we hope to have it wrapped up by May. We're not going to, as staff, we're not going to select an alignment, but we're going to come back to you at some point, fully informed. Here's the opportunities and constraints, and try and get you to agree with the County Board of Supervisors and to agree with the Solvang City Council, which will be a challenge, but hopefully I'm up to it, so I'll be back at some point to present that. So this is the Ojai Valley Trail, which extends between Ojai and Ventura. It's meant for bicyclists, pedestrians, and equestrians. It's a resource to the community. I think if Ventura County can do it, we can too. So. Here's what a complete build-out of the bicycle network would look like coming out of this plan. I will note that it also includes the aspirational projects, which, again, those were the ones that didn't meet the priority threshold of the public prioritization process. Red is what currently exists. And I'd like to note that in a parallel effort to this, Supervisor Hartman's office is really pushing to get bicycle education into schools in the valley. It turns out that the San Ynez Valley schools are the only ones in Santa Barbara County that don't have some type of bicycle education in them. So hopefully we'll see that within a year or two. And that's really it. Adds to the three-prong approach for building the next generation of bicyclists. We're going to have education in schools. We're going to provide safe routes for them to get to and from school, and then we'll also have somewhere for them to ride a bike when they're not in school, where they can grow more confident on the bike. This is my kids' school in Santa Barbara with the bike racks, but I think with those three things, once they're implemented, this is what the bike racks at the schools in Buellton will look like as well. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Council members, any questions for Mr. Becker or for Rose?
I had a question about the pump track. Is that also going to be like a racetrack?
So a pump track, typically I wouldn't say that they're raced on. There's a pump track currently in Santa Maria, and there's one in Isla Vista. People go there and enjoy themselves. Typically you don't even pedal, you pump your bike over there's jumps, but they're not meant to be jumped, that you use them to build momentum to get over the next one.
All righty. Thank you very much. I'm opening this up to the public now. I have 2 speaker slips. If anybody else wants to fill out a speaker slip and give their 3 minutes, you're welcome to. Our first speaker is Kirk Nordgren. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Kirk Nordgren, and I'm a Buellton resident, and I've lived in the San Ynez Valley since 2011, and I'm here because of cycling. I work as the general manager and head coach of a cycling coaching company in Santa Ynez. And I'm also here as the president of the Santa Ynez Valley Cycling Club. We're a local community nonprofit that has about 100 valley-wide members who ride bicycles. They're mostly probably the type 3 cyclist in Mr. Becker's plan, so more serious recreational road cyclists. So I've lived in Buellton for a couple years now, and I ride my bike from Buellton to my office in Santa Ynez occasionally. So I have some comments about that, but first, I guess overall, I would definitely encourage you as the Buellton City Council to approve this plan. It does seem like a bit of a formality, nothing concrete is actually happening, but I think it's moving the process forward of creating a better community for all types of cyclists. And I think it's important that the cities take steps and hopefully the county follows up and then some real things happen. I do think that there's a couple of, and I haven't studied all of the Buellton aspects of that plan, but I think there's a couple things that could be done just beyond, without having to wait for the county or anything. And I think the trail from Avenue of the Flags towards Riverview Park, I think if Buellton took a first step and said, we're going to make our own bike trail that goes from, so that you could connect from Flying Flags and you could get all the way to Riverview Park, and maybe that is then folded into a larger river trail at some point. I think that would be a very proactive step that Buellton could take. And I would also say, as a recreational cyclist, the 2 most dangerous points, well, the single most dangerous point in riding a bike in Buellton is crossing over the Highway 101 on 246 right out here. And I know that there's bike lanes, there's kind of some arrangement of bike lanes from each direction, but then they just stop at that bridge. If nothing else, if we could put some paint on the road with, sharrows or a bicycle sign in that right-hand lane, just so there's more visibility for cyclists, I think that would help. I've had a couple near-death experiences in my bike commuting, and most of them have happened in that intersection. Just there's too many driveways, gas stations, stoplights, on and off ramps, and we do have the bike paths, but then all of a sudden, or the bike lanes, but then all of a sudden they stop. So that would be great to see some sort of visibility improvement there.
All righty.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Christy Nordgren. And if you gentlemen would give your slips to Linda, I'll make sure you get called.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Christy Nordgren, and my comments will be brief. I'm also a Buellton resident, like my husband, who just presented. I've been here for, a few years. I am a local educator. I'm a voter. I am involved in my community. I represent, I'm a board member at large on the Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee, and I'm interested in ways that communities look at progressive infrastructure stances to improve lives of their communities and for their citizens. In the presentation that Mr. Becker gave, I represent the interests of all 3 of the initial photographs as an educator. I work at Dunn School, and we have a pretty established bike program where we work with 70 to 80 kids every year working on bike skills for 6 to 12 weeks out of the year, sometimes even more. I am so proud to be a Buellton resident because I love our sharrows and I love our bike lanes. We have some of the safest roads in the valley and therefore some of the most conscientious motorists, I think, using this part of the valley. So for that, I thank you for your progressive thinking in that regard. My comment is simple. I'm so supportive of the bicycle master plan. And throughout the San Ynez Valley, I hope the conversation continues. I will continue to attend every single meeting, and you'll hear a lot more about how we can make this great. So thank you for your consideration, and my vote as a citizen is, let's move this thing forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Corey Evans. Step on up.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name's Corey Evans. I own Dr. J's Bike Shop in Solvang, and I'm a member of the San Ynez Valley Cycling Club. And what I want to really focus on is the kids. I hear in my shop every day families asking where can their kids ride their bikes, and there's really nowhere. I mean, there's neighborhoods, and there's one bike path between the high school and Nielsen's Market, and it's very short, and both the entrance and the exit are not the greatest spots. So what I am in great favor of the bike master plan, and I think it's going to really enable families and kids to ride their bikes. And as Mike had mentioned, it's a rite of passage for kids. And there's just, if you look at a lot of the schools, there's no kids that ride their bikes to school. It's very, very few. So I think this is a really great thing to move forward so that we can encourage more kids and families and just recreational riders to get out there and ride their bikes. It's a healthy and healthy thing, and it's great for the environment. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Lance Hansen?
Yes, good evening. I just also wanted to second a lot of the concerns that were brought up. I'm one of Buellton's newer residents, I guess. Moved here a little bit over a year ago from Colorado, and we once lived in a small town pretty similar. So I would just recommend for comparison. It was great to bring up the Ojai Trail, but we lived out near Grand Junction, and they put in a riverfront trail out there, very similar idea, to connect it to two small suburbs and link the whole valley together for tourism and for health and recreation. One of the first things I did when I moved here was join the cycling club, but at the same time, living right near, literally right over Riverview Park, when I try to get my kids to go outside and get some exercise on their bikes, they can either just drive loops around the neighborhood, or I don't want them out on the highway. Or like my one son, he wants to go meet friends at the Starbucks, but it's on the other side of the freeway, and I don't want to send him over that bridge. So I had to coach him. Well, go up Avenue of the Flags and go over the other bridge because it's like safer. But so there's just some little issues, but I think it's a forward to do the master plan is very forward thinking. Two of our big issues in our society right now are childhood obesity and how that's impacting our into our adult population, and mental health, and good fitness improves mental health. And I think as far as business and tourism, it just amplifies one more thing for the valley to add to improve the bicycling situation, and helps our everyday citizens. And thank you very much. I know it's not completed yet, but the crossing that's underway at Sycamore, I mean, we live so close to the school, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't trust my kid to walk across because without the crosswalk in place, people would not acknowledge the blinking signs. So I'm glad that the city was able to move forward and put that in place, and I'm looking forward to that being completed as well.
Good.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. And I hope Gary Duville. Wonderful. Please, welcome.
Hi, good evening. I don't live in Buellton, so I don't know if my remarks count, but I do spend money here occasionally. I live in San Ynez. I recently moved here from Santa Barbara to raise my young family, my 5-year-old son. We are blessed to live on a dead end. He does ride bikes like his father and a lot of his friends, but I will say that I'm terrified to allow him off our street. He's never ridden his bike other than on our driveway and in our dead end. because of the lack of safety on our roadways. And so I would really encourage you, for the youth and the next generation, to invest in this plan. I think it'll be good for them and for the safety of our children, but also good for business. There's an event coming up in a few weeks, the Fig Fondo. You've probably heard about it, and that's going to be a great event. It'll bring in a lot of money. People from outside of the valley. I have a friend that's coming in from NorCal. I have several friends that are coming in from Santa Barbara to attend that. And furthermore, I think it would be good for tax revenue in the future and for the value of our homes to have a robust cycling network in the valley. That San Ynez River project, if we had something like that, it would be so much easier to get people to move from Santa Barbara to come here. I think they want to anyway. And it would just help to have something like that our kids could spend time on and safely on the weekends ride their bikes without having to navigate the treacherous roadways. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I have one more speaker slip. If anybody else wants to fill one out, now's your chance. Mr. Hecker, you're up.
Alrighty. Good evening, Madam Mayor, distinguished Buellton City Council members. It's hard to believe I've known these two guys my entire life. I mean, that's crazy.
You're getting old.
Yeah, so I am getting old.
Still talk to you.
Hey, I'm a third-generation Valley resident, and I currently serve as chairperson of the Santa Barbara County Riders and Hikers Trail Advisory Committee. We report directly to the Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors. And I'm also director of the San Ynez Valley Spoke, which is an official chapter of the Santa Barbara County Bicycle Coalition. I want to thank you for taking the time tonight to consider adopting the San Ynez Valley Bicycle Master Plan. The City of Buellton really is the leader in advancing bicycle infrastructure in the San Ynez Valley. That's something you all should be very proud of. I've been meaning to come here for literally 2 years to thank you for getting the Class 2 bike lanes on 246 and working with Caltrans. So thank you for that. The Sharrows on 2nd Street, perfect. That's exactly what those kids need to show some sort of designation to get to those 2 elementary schools. So, when I'm out there talking bicycle infrastructure to people, I often get, well, who pays for bicycle infrastructure, Mike? Who pays for it? Well, there's lots of ways it can be paid for, but the main way a major project like the San Ynez River Trail gets funded is through the California State Active Transportation Grant System. And it's not through passing local ordinances, it's not through taxing your local residents anymore. And these monies are set aside for $200 million of allocation annually by the state of California for bicycle and alternative transportation. Paving our roadways, like Santa Rosa Road, doesn't come out of this pot of money. It comes out of the California California gas tax and things like that. So when I hear that, I try to educate the public. This is where it's going to come from. It's not coming directly out of your pocket, but in a way it is, because you pay taxes, and those taxes get allocated to this type of expenditure, and it's not being spent in your community because we haven't asked for it yet. So now we have this bicycle master plan. Please approve it tonight. Let's move this forward even further, and it'll be a healthier community. More kids will be riding bicycles, and I can't wait to ride that river trail with my grandchildren. Thank you.
Great grandchildren.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our last speaker, Efren Padilla. Please step up.
Hello. My name is Efren Padilla. Some people call me Ephraim Padilla, but I'm a lifelong resident of Buellton, and I just recently found out about all the bicycle master plan via social media, and I've been asked to come and help support, and I didn't even know half this stuff was going down, so it's great. I'm one of the people that wasn't described in the presentation of Mr. Becker's, but I'm an adult rider of pump tracks. So sometimes people think that the pump tracks are for children, but that was something that I've been actually building since I was a kid. So moving to Buellton, I think in 4th grade, I met kids who were into BMX, but we didn't have a racetrack, And the only way we learned about it was through magazines. And all you see in magazines was the grandest pictures of people jumping. So we were trying to figure out how to do that, and little by little we learned how to build dirt jumps. And Mr. Sanchez has even seen me in action since I was a child, but where the dog park is now was my personal pump track. And I used to build maybe like I started with maybe 2-foot tall dirt jumps, and by the time I quit riding in my mid-20s, I was probably about to 4-foot, maybe 6-foot tall dirt jumps that I would launch myself maybe 7 feet off of. And the Valley Racetrack opened up without me knowing either. I had people come up to me and they said, "These are great jumps. Are you going to go to the racetrack?" And I said, "Well, there's a racetrack in Buellton? You're going to open a racetrack in my town? I don't even know this." So I rode at the Valley BMX Racetrack from the day they opened till the day they closed. Only raced 4 times, but then I just used it as my personal training ground. I would ride there every night and get better and faster, and then I would take those skills to other people's dirt jumping areas as well. So I stopped riding about 18 years ago, now 19 years ago, just because I was getting injured, was planning on buying a house, and I just kind of left it aside. And 2 years ago, my wife totally surprised me and bought me a brand new BMX bike. And it's not like those road bikes you see or a mountain bike. This is all 4130 Aerospace Chromoly, designed for an adult man to jump, but it's like a tiny bike. And she had no idea what she unleashed. So in the middle of all this, through social media also, I've met a couple of people who are opening a bike park in Lompoc, which is kind of like a pump track, but even way bigger, and it encompasses a little bit of everything. And they had invited me to come check it out, and now that I had a bike, I went and saw it. And that is completely run by volunteers. I think the city only maybe donated some of the property and some things here and there, but the rest of it's all volunteer, and it's run by a firefighter. And there's a committee of volunteers, and they run it as a nonprofit. And so when I got there to ride there, the place was in disrepair because it's been about maybe 5 years since it's been running. They battle things like gophers, weeds, rain. They're really close to the river, so the homeless kind of destroy certain aspects of it. But the riding surfaces is what I was concerned about. So I started riding there, and I met the guy who runs it. And he said, "What do you think of the place?" I said, "It's great, it's huge, it's awesome, but it's kind of beat up." And he said, "Well, there's somebody working on that jump." I said, "Yeah, that's me." So I have now, for 2 years, become the vice president of their committee, which basically means I just maintain the entire jump line, which are the big jumps there for everybody. But it has been such a positive experience, aside from the fact that I'm riding bikes again, which is something I did like my entire youth. I lost 25 pounds out there. I figured out I could still jump and do tricks, but I've met maybe 70% of the Central Coast bicycling community that rides on pump tracks. We get people all the way from Ojai, Paso Robles. I had some guys come up during the middle of the summer all the way from Corona, California, because it was too hot to stay down there. So they came up and rode there. So it's been a pretty positive thing. So when I found out that there was a pump track being proposed here, I just wanted to show my support and publicly thank everybody who's advocating for all the bicycle aspects of
We'll have to
the
get you
master
involved
plan.
in it.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll have to get you involved in it.
I would love to be a part of it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All righty, closing it down for the public, bringing it back to council. Gentlemen, what say you?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to interject because I haven't seen, the biggest thing I see as people not wearing headgear. And my question was regarding safety. What statutes serve to best protect bicycle safety? I applaud him. I've never seen his kids without a helmet. They may not have a snap, but his kids are 2 years old out there riding their bikes with their helmet on. And I being a father and a grandfather, I would hate to be having a child damaged because their head hit a surface that could have been protected. And I would like us to somehow incorporate in, if we're going to work on a bike master plan, get some teeth in bike safety so that we can protect our And it's mostly the youth. It's not,
And I think that's what the education program, we're working on. They would come, they'd teach bicycle safety, including the helmets.
Mike's been great at it.
And they want to work with Cottage Hospital, too, to provide low-cost helmets.
Well-
I know when you were, you
Rotary?
went to the schools with the
Yes.
Rotary and provided training.
We gave the helmets.
Training and helmets, yeah.
But
So,
I would
yeah,
like
agree.
us to perhaps put a carrot in this adoption, for this plan to streamline the importance of the safety, so that, we're a very small town, everyone loves the bike paths, but, if we had some children losing their limbs or being comatose because they hit the ground because they went too high in the air, I would somehow feel responsible if we didn't take an effort to make, let us citizens know so we can tell people. With law enforcement and what we had, I think when Officer Wynn was on his motorcycle, he gave, was it a coupon? Did McDonald's would supply him with something bucks, McDonald bucks, if they were wearing he would just stop them for having the safety. They say, I want to thank you for that. And the kids, boy, it spread through. The kids showed up with their helmets and they said, can I have one of those bucks? And it was just that little spark of energy that I think I'd hate to let that go unaddressed. So I'm asking maybe if there's some way we can incorporate this, or if the bike community could give us some
A
pointers
question.
on how.
This is the San Ynez Valley Bicycle Plan, Master Plan. Do we still have the Buellton Plan as well? I mean, are we doing away with the Buellton Plan for the Valley Master Plan?
It's a question for Rose.
Yeah.
Well, this, our plan is incorporated in this.
Right.
So we took this opportunity, since it's part of the regional plan, to kind of do a twofer.
Right.
So this updates our
Right.
plan, includes the new projects, it has the same goals and objectives and, and priorities and outreach with, our community as our plan did. We just did it together with the other agencies.
Okay.
So this, does incorporate what we have.
Any suggestions?
A couple things. Number one, I agree with the mayor in terms of when the bicycle education comes to the schools, that's one thing that will help with, there is a state law that children have to wear helmets, or they're required by law. I don't know if it's 16 or 18 years old is when that law, when you age out of it, 18. So there's that, and along with the bicycle education, at least in the south coast of Santa Barbara, we have the helmet giveaways where the Coalition for Sustainable Transportation does it down south, but they come up, they have a deal with a helmet manufacturer where they get them at cost, and come up and distribute them to kids who can't afford helmets. And then also, I know for instance, the city of Goleta just recently built a park, and they built a skate park as part of it, and there was a lot of talk of making sure that all the kids wore helmets. I can't speak to how well it's adhered to, but there's signs everywhere, wear a helmet. And for instance, if the city moves forward with a pump track, you can have a rule that there are big signs that say helmets must be worn, and in addition to the carrot, have the police occasionally come down with a stick and make sure that it's being adhered to.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
I'd like to get on a soapbox for a minute. Many of you know that I was a CHP motorcycle officer. I can't tell you how many hundreds of tickets I've written to bicycle riders. The share the road does not mean just to the advantage of the bicycle rider. Share the road also means to the advantage of the person driving a car. And there's like a weird phenomenon that goes on, is like when people get on their bicycle, all of a sudden they get high and mighty like they own the road. Well, that's not really the case. The vehicle code says that you have to obey the laws just like a person driving a car. We would sit at the bottom of Ortega Hill and have 25 or 30 bicycle riders blow that sign at the bottom of Ortega Hill, right where the freeway on-ramp is to northbound. And we would pull all of them over, and we would write 20 or 25 tickets at a time. Not yet.
So, sharing the road means is that you do not ride 2 or 3 abreast on a windy uphill road and hold the car drivers up until they're pissed off, and then they beep the horn to let you know they're going around, and then as that car driver goes by, you kick the mirror off. Okay? That is, you're looking at me like I've got 2 heads. It happens all the time. Okay? The other thing I want to preach about is that monkey see, monkey do. You're the adult. If you're riding with your kids and you run a stop sign, that kid's going to run the stop sign. Because, especially if you're the parent. Because they figure, oh, it's okay to run the stop sign, that doesn't apply to me. I cannot tell you how many dozens, countless accidents that I have written where the bicycle rider was probably under 10 or 12 years old and they were at fault because they either ran the stop sign, they ran the traffic signal, or they were riding on the wrong side of the road. So, if you want my support in this master plan and have money going forward, it's incumbent upon you as the people that are part of this community that are bicycle advocates to, 1, obey the traffic laws, 2, teach your kids to obey the traffic laws, and 3, is that we don't make it inconvenient for the car drivers when we put this master plan in. And I know everybody likes to ride side by side and chit-chat while they're riding down the highway, but if you're impeding the flow of traffic, then you're doing a disservice to the rest of the public because you want to chat while you're riding on your bike. Speechifying over.
Speechifying over. Okay. Unfortunately, we are closed to the public. These are comments, but I would assume that most of the bicyclists sitting here in the audience are here because they advocate for safe bicycling. And the people that you're talking about, they all live in Santa Barbara.
I didn't work here, but, you know, it's the same crowd.
Okay.
They come
Any other comments, any motions?
Well, I have one comment.
Sure.
Because in my nature of work, we travel across the valley, and I see what Dave's point is, and most of them, once they do move over, you get to move over. It's just common courtesy, but it also just, I think the point that Ed was making, education. So hopefully, not only the adults, but the bicycle clubs keep putting that safety element in, and I think it's a master plan that is workable in our time era. I mean, I have grandchildren, and growing up on a farm, you didn't bike much, but when I had to have some recuperation from a major knee surgery, I biked from Meadowlark Ranches all the way down to the airport, which is like 3.5 miles up and down hills. And that was to strengthen my knee, and once I got to the point where I can keep going one hill, another, and it's great education for the kids. It teaches them some responsibility, but you have to plan that and teach them safety. So that's an important part of making sure that if you want support from the council, that gets mentioned in the first. My son and I, we shoot trap, and the first 10 minutes of the whole time they're out there is nothing but safety. You can't get any more dangerous than a gun versus a bicycle. But all 50 kids spend the first 10 minutes going over nothing but safety before they even go out on the range. And they learn from 4th grade on to high school. And that's just part of it. If you want to shoot a gun at a trap range, you learn safety, and there's no questions. It's not, well, I didn't think, well, you're not shooting anymore. Safety is the biggest factor there. So I agree with Dave on that part, and I just hopefully we can see this follow through and a jump track here in Buellton to where my grandkids can participate.
Well, you know, we have the list of project descriptions, and a lot of these projects have already been completed. I mean, Buellton really is in the forefront of the valley in getting things done for bicyclists. We I think the two most important coming up are going to be the pump track, which we have our rec director going into now, and the safety and education. So I'm really proud of what our town has done. I would love to see our school's bike racks be full like Michael's daughter's school, to see a lot of bikes with locks on them and the helmets, and I am really, really proud of what our community does. So I would like to move this forward. But any comments from you two before a motion is made, or would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to say one more thing. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a bike rider hater, okay? I probably sounded like it when I was preaching. Not a bike rider hater, I'm telling you. It's a two-way street. If you want respect in the valley here, once we put this thing in, we all have to comply with what the law is. I've been riding a bicycle since I was like 3 or 4 or whatever, like it's too far back for me to remember. I still ride a bicycle. So what my point was there is, don't piss people off, just because we're on a bicycle.
Okay.
Can I make a motion to
Please.
adopt the San Ynez Valley Bicycle Master Plan?
Second.
Perfect. Linda?
All right, Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Mercado.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Andrusik.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it. All righty, we're going to wait just a couple minutes before we go on to agenda item number 9. Thank you all for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Hey, don't jump too high. Be careful, you're old.
Well, I can't, we need to.
I hate it. I tell you what, I hate to take an
We need to
accident.
get you a pile together.
Santa Barbara, I remember you. Ortega Hill? Was it Ortega Hill?
Oh yeah, dude, we used to blow our Ortega Hill.
I never lost a case.
On the Sunday ride?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I never lost a case.
I think one might have gone to Warren, I'm not sure. Good night, you guys. Good to see you.
All right, Morgan.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yeah. You can let you check
I'm gonna
that.
sick you on them.
Oh, Lord. Okay, agenda item number 9, consideration of a new contract with Metro Ventures LTD for Irma L. Tucker to provide professional planning services. Ms. Kiefer.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, the contract for Irma Tucker of Metro Ventures for professional planning services, the current contract expires on November 8th, 2019. Ms. Tucker has assisted the planning department by taking on major special projects and work that is subject to reimbursement by major developers, and has been doing so in order to reduce the overall planning department workload. So the services provided by her continue to be very valuable to the city and to the planning department. I have listed some of the projects that she's been working on and will be working on if her contract tonight is approved. But I just wanted to kind of go over some of the major ones that are upcoming to give you an idea of what she is and will be working on. So we are beginning the process of updating the land use and circulation element update as was budgeted in this current budget year and the next. And so we're going to be kicking that off, and that's going to be likely approximately a 1.5-year process, and a pretty big process in working with the contractor that's been selected to come on board with us. And it'll be a pretty big undertaking, and the city is going to be the primary worker on the land use element in coordination with Rincon Consultants for the circulation element and the EIR that's associated with that. So a pretty big document, a pretty big undertaking that we will be kicking off in the next couple weeks. The other projects I'd like to point out is that she does currently have 4 private development projects that she's working on, or 5, 4 of which are in the Avenue of Flag specific plan area. So just to really briefly go over them, the Creekside Village project that you guys recently saw the concept review, that's likely to come in the next few weeks, in the coming weeks, and that's a project she's the project manager on. We have the 518 Avenue of Flags mixed-use project that's has received entitlements, and we're not sure at this point when building plans will come in, but you know, they may or likely to come in. Also, the Arco gas station plans, we've heard that likely those will come back in. Those are in process in terms of waiting to receive entitlements, but we're anticipating that those will be coming back in soon. And also the Hartman Highway 246 project that's currently, he's coming in through the process. So she also did process the Commons project, which we're just awaiting building plans at this point. So just to give a couple of examples of both the private development projects she's working on, some of the long-range planning, there's others, but just wanted to kind of point out the ones coming through. And in addition to that, like I said, I've listed some of the other tasks that she works on currently. So under her current contract, over an 11-month period, because we don't have this current month reported yet, she's worked 914 hours of the 1,040 budgeted for. 102 of those have been billed to private projects, so it's not, the cost gets passed on to the private developer. So that translates into, I think, about approximately $8,000 of the contract. So, and again, that's about 88% of her contract over the 11-month period with 1 month to report. So, yeah, I have the numbers here actually. So far, $74,000 approximately have been charged to the city over the 11-month period with 1 month to report, and about $8,200 of that have been charged to the private developer. So, you know, the planning department workload does continue to be heavy, and assistance provided by Metro Ventures with some of the special projects continues to be needed. That being said, even though a full-time assistant planner has been hired as of September 2019, she was hired to assist with regular projects and also some of the long-range projects and that kind of a thing. So Ms. Tucker does have extensive experience and familiarity with the planning department operations and functions, and will continue to be an invaluable resource to the planning department over the next year as the assistant planner really learns her new role and responsibilities. In addition to that, the planning director will be off for a period of time next year on medical leave. And so,
Our planning director?
So, you know, Irma may be called upon to serve in an interim capacity to serve as the primary planning department contact during that time, during my absence. So, with that, I wanted to kind of move into the reset, just a brief description of the new state law that has been adopted, which requires that we actually enter into a new contract, one-year contract with Irma. In the past, we have extended the existing contract for either 6 months or a year, depending on the action of the council at that particular meeting at that particular time. Because of changes in state law, we actually did have to bring back a new contract, an amended new contract. So that's what we are bringing forth to you tonight. However, the hourly rate of $81 per hour would remain the same, and the maximum number of hours of 1,040 would remain the same. And just as the current contract, the new contract would not include any benefits. So, and I just wanted to point out a total of $82,240 has been included in the 1920 and 2021 budget for contract services with Metro Ventures. What I wanted to point out about this in particular was that the actual calculation, so it was a budget typo essentially, the actual calculation is $84,240. So that would just be, that correction would just be part of the budget adjustment process to make sure that that's corrected. But the contract that you have before you tonight does list the $84,240 in the correct calculation.
Gotcha.
So with that, staff recommends that the council authorize the city manager to enter into a new contract for contract planning services with Metro Ventures Limited for a period of 1 year for the rate of $81 per hour for a maximum of 1,040 hours. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Any questions? No questions? I open it up to the public. I don't see anybody jumping for a speaker slip there. I'll bring it back to council.
Nothing.
For purpose of discussion, because we've during my tenure on the council, we did have a situation, I don't think anyone here now was involved in it, but a local resident, lived here 50 years or so, decided to add a second residence to his lot, residential lot, and was given an estimate. That created, havoc, because he was then told once he got started and hired the architect, then he starts getting these what seemed astronomical price increases. And so all I'm asking that we be diligent to is not to kill the golden goose, because we want to pass these fees on, and we want to be operating efficiently. But when we go to outside vendors, I've sat in rooms with them, and they just shrug their shoulders and say that's the cost of doing business. So I guess I would like to see if we have some stop gaps. Are there any agencies that look to see what an average rate is for construction or maintenance or remodel, so that we don't just tell everyone tells, well, you can go talk to the council. I would like to make staff, just request that the council, I think, is uniformly wanting to offer the best deal for people that want to invest in this city. So it's not an attack. I'm just saying I would like us to maybe find a way to it's always in the budget.
Streamline.
We've always got it in the budget, and I'm thinking maybe we don't need to have, when we did our water rate study, we kept our operating costs down, and we have a very hard-working staff. I'm not saying that. It's when we slide out to the outside contractors that just say, yeah, that's it. I spent 8 hours on that. 8 hours. I'm going to sit there for 8 hours and see how long it would take. How do you come up with these numbers? And so I just would like to maybe make it a priority, or an operating, what do they call it, SOP, standard operating procedure, to say what is the going rate when what do you expect we should, what should we expect when we tell people? Maybe we're not telling them enough in the beginning, other than, well, how much money have you got? Yeah, you can afford it.
I understand where you're coming from, Vice Mayor, and I can assure you that my goal is to ensure that the city staff provides the residents of Buellton with the best possible service for the lowest possible price.
I think that's the
philosophy the council has taken and passed along to me as your policy. That's my goal. And therefore that is the staff's goal. The planning director is very attentive to those projects that Ms. Tucker has been working on. Ms. Tucker works very closely with the planning director as well as with me when these projects come forward, and we're keeping a very close eye on what's going on. I think that by virtue of the performance that Ms. Kiefer has indicated with regard to the amount of money that's been expended thus far in the current contract period, you can see that we're not looking at an excessive amount of hours, and to the extent that some of those costs can be recovered from private applicants, we're ensuring that happens to the benefit of the Buellton residents whose tax money goes to pay for those services that are not covered by private dollars. So we will continue to do that. I can reiterate what Ms. Kiefer has indicated, that particularly for the next year, given the short tenure that our assistant planner has had, and during, quite frankly, the short tenure that I've had as a city manager, even though I have a planning background, I'm still getting my feet underneath me as far as getting programs running and making sure that we're moving in the right direction here. Over the course of the next year, all of that should stabilize, and I suspect we'll find that the department at that point may be able to operate with the current staffing level without need of consultant augmentation. But for right now, I think given the circumstances we're looking at, that's probably our best approach.
It's a major transition, I realize that, but I didn't want to just sit here quietly and say, oh yeah, let's go ahead with this.
I understand, and I agree 100%.
But you do know, working on open streets, working with the green team, Irma has been very, very helpful with all of that. We've gone in, we had a problem with Gavin once, and while Andrea handled him beautifully, Irma was right there with just in case there was any backup needed. And I truly appreciate the working relationship that our planning department has.
I should also note that she is at the forefront among city staff in terms of looking for grant opportunities to help fund some of these additional projects. And without having her on the staff over the past year or two, we probably would have missed out on a number of those opportunities that she's taken the lead in going after that additional money for us.
I appreciate that kind of update. You know, for example, you can say when you go out to us, you just came from League of Cities, the networking that goes on, and oftentimes I know in past I've sat with other council members from different cities, and you see a big disparity in wow, that's all you're paying for that? Sounds like we might be getting hosed a little bit here. and just that.
Yeah,
I would like to be vigilant.
We will keep an eye on that. As I've mentioned previously, it's always difficult to get an apples to apples comparison when we're looking at service between cities, but we will keep an eye on that, and our goal is to be good stewards of the residents, the taxpayers' money.
I am very happy with the longevity of the staff that we have, and we're integrating new people, and we've got age. We've got a new era coming in instead of someone that's the majority of our. Well, we just recently, the city found a lot of people were leaving because they'd been here so many years, and so we really suffered with exposure, seasoned employees, and so I'm not trying to discourage it, but the employee is what we're looking for. Is
overseas. Yes.
Is the keeping an eye on balance.
That's our goal.
Balance.
Yes.
Okay, any other comments, motions?
Yeah, I have one comment.
Yes.
Having been on a chair for the Planning Commission and having had Irma present projects, she does a great job. She's very professional, and I think that she is part of the team, and I would make the motion to approve her contract with Metro for professional planning services for the year.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Mercado.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Andrusik.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank
Look
you
forward
all.
to another year.
Thank you all.
Thank you. On to our city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the City Council, I have a very brief report tonight, just a couple of items. As the City Council may be aware, there are a number of County Planning Commission hearings to be held in the next couple of weeks with regard to cannabis cultivation. I will be attending those. If any of you would like to join me in attending those, please feel free. I'm sure that the County Planning Commission would appreciate hearing from an elected official from the city as well as from the city manager. But if you are interested in attending with me, please let me know. I'll get you the appropriate information. As the City Council is probably aware, Village Park is now open. And we opened that very quietly a couple of weeks ago.
Soft open.
Soft opening. We are planning for a dedication, but there are some additional improvements we'd like to see prepared for that dedication. And so in order to accommodate that as far as timing and to try and match the timing up with another major event, we're proposing at this point that the City Council consider holding a formal dedication for that park during or immediately prior to the Winterfest event on December 8th. We'll ensure a nice showing by the public.
That's what you're having, doing it.
That's right, exactly. So it's a nice little synergy there. So that's the direction we'll be looking at unless the City Council has direction otherwise. And lastly, I'd just like to mention, as a reminder, that the city's Arts and Culture Committee has a project, a sponsored project that is occurring this weekend and next weekend, Saturday from 8 to 1, and then November 1st and 2nd from 5 to 9 p.m., We have the Dia de los Muertos event, series of events. There's some workshops this weekend, and then the actual art display Friday and Saturday night of next week. And so that would be at the Botanic Gardens next to Riverview Park.
I had a question on that one.
Yes, sir.
The event is in the Botanical Gardens, but there's also the, we discussed, we have at the meeting about using the park, that one's group section immediately next to the Botanical Gardens for activities. And you talked about fees or permits for that. Is that something we're working with the girl from planning too, and
Yeah, I'm certain the committee should work through Claire on that one.
Right, we'll
And
work
then
through
if
Claire.
there are any issues, she'll bring that to my attention, and we
Okay.
can work that out.
All right, thank you.
And that would conclude my report.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. If
Thank you.
there's nothing else, then I adjourn this meeting. Our next meeting is